A few weeks ago, you lot sent us a load of questions asking how to get the very best out of your bikes, and we've managed to pin down one of Cycle Surgery's top mechanics, so we're going to pump him for some answers. So morning, why is it important to keep your bike nice and clean?
It just works better, it lasts longer, that extends the life of the chain and all the surrounding parts. It feels a lot better riding it.
Does that efficiency mean that you go faster? I mean, is it actually a performance advantage?
Yeah, it'll be performance advantage. The smoother the metals work on each other, the smoother your drivetrain will work.
And which parts of that system are the most likely to get dirty and the most that need to be cleaned the most?
Well, definitely your chain and surrounding, all the cogs, the chainring, the cassette and the derailleur pulleys will definitely get caked.
Do you have a particular routine for doing that in the workshop, or is it vary depending on what you're working on?
You take the chain off if it's not already stretched. Usually we change the chain before we even clean it. Most of the time that means changing the cassette and even chainring sometimes. But you can extend the life of your chain rings and cassette by just changing the chain and keeping that as clean as possible. If I'm at home, I would basically run some oil over it and get the grit off, because all the grit becomes sort of loose when you put the oil on.
So once your chain's clean, then is it your cassette next?
Usually the quickest way to do that is leave it on the wheel. Of course, if you have a disc brake on there, maybe remove the disc before you start cleaning, because
you don't want to get any cleaning products on there.
Exactly, yeah. You're just going to mess up.
And can you tell just from looking at the cassette whether it's too worn to continue to use it?
Yes, you can. Generally, you can tell by the profile of the teeth, because the chain's going forward. You can look at the cassette and you can see that the back end of the teeth is sort of fold over.
Oh, so the profile of the two sides of the tooth
look
exactly. Very different.
And that becomes more apparent on your most favourite gears especially. You can instantly tell.
And your front and rear derailleurs obviously are responsible for moving the chain about the gear, so it's important that they work well, that they're smooth, and also that they're clean.
If they're not too caked in road grit or even mud, depending on the bike, you can just spray some GT85 or similar type lubricant into the hinges, into the screws, make sure that they work, and also check your limits.
So if you're properly cleaning your drivetrain, you'd normally take the derailleurs off?
Yeah, take them off the bike, give them a good scrub, put them back on, exactly the same spots.
Once you've taken the derailleurs off, obviously you'll need to recable them, and that's obviously a good opportunity to re-lube your cables as well.
Either use some Shimano grease or sort of nice and viscous chain lube, works really well, that stays in there.
So you'd use something quite heavy rather than like a GT85 or something like that? That
works as well. Obviously you don't want to use something too sticky. The grease that Shimano have is a good, it's sticky, but it's
just the right consistency
for
exactly, the job.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't want to change the cable, I find that GT85 does work, squirting into the tight spots.
So that just penetrates a bit better.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't have to remove everything. So once you've got everything back together, re-lubing your chain is the next thing to do. Is there a specific lube you'd use, or does it vary depending on the conditions?
It does vary on the conditions. Wet weather, you would always use a more viscous, nice and thick oil. Not car lube, but obviously cycle-specific chain lube. For summer use, you could use a drier lube, but that also means applying a bit more because the waxy stuff doesn't last long. As a rule of thumb, in the workshop, we always do a wet lube because it lasts longer. When you apply the lubricant to the chain, you just need to do 2 backwards rotations, and that's usually enough. More than that, it's just gonna muck it all up and make it look really messy. Once you've done the lubing, it's also a good idea to hold the rag under the chain and back pedal so that the excess comes off in the rag.
Once everything's back together again, what are the final checks that you'd make to make sure that everything's working perfectly before you take your bike out again?
Check the derailleur hanger, see if that's straight. is the derailleur needs to be in line with the cassette, each sprocket, and also check the limit screws so the chain doesn't derail. Likewise, do exactly the same on the front. Check your limit screws on the lowest and the highest. When you go to adjust your gears, the quickest and simplest way is, once you have everything set up, the cable locked onto the rear mac, is to shift up one gear. When it doesn't go up, unwind the barrel adjuster, so anti-clockwise until it reaches the next gear, and that should take it up to the rest of the cassette. To keep your bike in optimum shape, it's a good idea to clean the drivetrain monthly or even weekly if you can.